Welcome to Get Moving TV. I'm Dr. Chris Landon and I serve as your host. Again, we have remarkable resources here, both in people and services. We have an innovation center that's really coming to light. And we have with us today Richard Sennett, who is the historian for Ventura County. But the things that he's collected are not just history about oil wells and pixie oranges, but there's a lot of scary things that happen around here. So Richard, welcome to the show, and tell us about, I know you have a new book here. Tell us.
That's my newest book, Charman Ghosts of the Ojai. All of Ventura County is haunted. People ask how in the world I get involved in such a flaky subject like ghosts. And it's because back in 1978, I saw a ghost. And it was nothing I'd expected. I wasn't searching for it. In fact, I was doing archaeology at an old Spanish mission and saw a monk walking by with a hood. And I thought it was real. I walked up to it and bang, it was gone. And because of that sighting, I have studied the paranormal for 40 years. And I've gone to some of the best haunted sites on Earth. The Tower of London, Rose Hall in Jamaica, all over the place, and done extensive studies. In fact, I'm quite well known for it, and I've penned a number of books about the paranormal. Actually, I think the count is now 22 books. And you can see them all on Amazon if you go on my author's page. But I've gone and investigated and worked with some of the best people in the business, like Dr. Hans Holzer, the psychologist who got into ghost hunting, Dr. Thelma Moss, and others. So I've been very privileged to do this. So of course, now ghost hunting has become very commonplace. And when I started doing it, there were only 12 ghost hunters in the whole United States. You know how many there are just in Los Angeles County alone? 1,500.
It's a lot of ghosts to go and find.
A lot of ghosts out there. So I continue to investigate, and I'm still looking for answers. I don't know what they are, really. I just know people continue to see them.
But something is there.
Something is out there, and we don't know what it is because people have been seeing the same kind of stuff for, as far as I can figure, the last 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptians saw ghosts. Same kind of things we see today. Well, Ventura County has more than a share of haunted places. Like the missions of California are all haunted, our mission has 2 ghosts in it as well. Our city hall is haunted as well. But it was at one time our county courthouse. And I have found courthouses, no matter where they are all haunted. Now I think it has something to do with stress. Think about it. What could be more stressful than being tried for murder? Well, so I could see why that place would be haunted.
So it's baked into the walls, the stress, or?
Yeah, I think that's what it might well be. Also, I found another pattern. Buildings that have thick walls, like, well, missions made of adobe or stone, old adobe haciendas, courthouse made of brick and marble. All these thick buildings seem to retain their ghosts. Well, we think of ghosts, what comes to mind? Haunted castles. What are castles made out of? Big rocks. So thick walls of natural material might have something to do with it. I don't know, that's just a theory. Lots of different theories out there. Also, I found ghosts tend to locate where there are creative and driven people. And wouldn't you know it, our history is filled with creative people here in Ventura. Of course, if you're looking for the ghost capital of California, you just have to go down the road a piece to Hollywood, which of course has more creative people and egotistical people than you'll find anywhere else, and they all come back as ghosts. So Hollywood is really quite a haunted place. Every studio, every one, is haunted by at least one ghost, sometimes 5 or 10. Many of the theaters are haunted. In fact, theaters are haunted all over. That's been a pattern since Shakespeare's Globe long ago. So you have these sorts of events happening. Of course, around here, what is one of the more creative places? The Ojai Valley. Lots of artists, religious people have gone up there. The Crotona Institute, the other groups, the Theosophy, Buddhists, they all tend to gravitate toward that valley. Movie stars, many live there, and wouldn't you know it, it's just chock full of ghosts. Reports of phantoms haunting the old mansions built in the turn of the century, like Reese Witherspoon's old mansion. I think she sold it, actually. In fact, the mansion that Tim Burton owned is haunted. All kinds of bizarre and strange stuff have kind of inspired me to do a special study of the Ojai Valley, and that's in my newest book, Charman, and the Ghosts of the Ojai Valley. Now you ask, who is Charman, right?
So who's Charman?
Charman is this figure of a horribly burnt man. His face more a skull than a face, the flesh peeling off and his clothes burned. This hideously burned figure has been seen over and over again. Now, the first stories link him to the Great Forest Fire of 1948. They say it was a fireman fighting the flames, and the wind changed, and he was caught in the conflagration and burned to death. One minor problem: the Great Forest Fire of 1948, no lives were lost, no one. So it couldn't have been from that incident. Then there's all sorts of other stories. He was a farmer whose house was set on fire by teenagers. And of course, his ghost haunts the valley, and guess what? He hates teenagers, which can't say I blame him, and he hates rock and roll music. Now, you would think that if a ghost hates teenagers and wants to get revenge on them and hates rock and rolls, the last thing you'd want to do is drive on Creek Road where he lives. But of course, what do the students at Nordhoff High School do? Why, they get in their cars in the summertime and they drive down Creek Road, and it makes sense. I mean, what's more fun? Looking for Charman or doing your homework? Or if you've got a girl with you in your car and it's dark and spooky, if you've ever driven Creek Road, you know what I mean.
Yes,
the
I do.
trees over arch like a tunnel. Well, if you're driving that with your girlfriend, what's she going to do? Scooch over and snuggle up to you, which is an added benefit, of course. But remarkably, even though this sounds like an urban legend, some of the people claim to have seen him and had encountered this burnt figure, wherever it comes from. And of course, I've included those stories in my book. Some they got quite close to the creature. One was even attacked, or claimed he was attacked by it. But there are other phantoms on Creek Road. The oldest one is a headless horseman that dates back to the days of the gold rush. And there was this outlaw bandit who terrorized California. I think it's loosely based on Murrieta, who did terrorize California and robbed lots and lots of gold miners. Well, this one guy was robbing a ranch in what is today Oakview, the Arnaz Ranch. And unfortunately, the rancher, for the bandit, was entertaining 12 lawmen from Santa Barbara. And they, of course, took off after him. And he rode towards Ojai, and they caught him when his horse fell, broke its leg. They caught up with him. There was a huge battle. They killed him. And then, hoping to get the reward, they buried him but cut off his head and took it with them to prove they got him, to get their reward. Same thing happened to Joaquin Murrieta. Well, we don't know what happened to it, but of course the story is more embellished. His soul went down to hell, and there was the devil. who asked him, "Where's your head?" And he said, "I'm sorry, they cut it off, Your Majesty." And he said, "Well, you go right back there and get it." And he said, "I'm sorry, I'm condemned to hell for my many sins and murders." And the devil got mad that his man was so ill-used, and he reached in the side of his jacket and he pulled out a piece of parchment and wrote a "Get Out of Hell" pass. Wouldn't that be nice to have? Mm-hmm. And now he goes out of hell, and the devil loaned him his own horse, a huge black stallion, and he rides the earth. Now he's given up trying to find his head, and now he rides on the last night of the month, like Halloween. And what's he after? He needs to work for his boss, the devil, and the boss ordered him to bring back 7 souls of sinners. 7. And as long as he brings back 7, his own well-deserved punishment will be postponed for a month. So he rides all around the Ojai Valley, seeking sinners. Does he find enough? Never. Not enough sitting in Ojai. So he goes down Creek Road to Ventura. Does he ever find enough in Ventura? No. But he keeps going to Oxnard. And guess what? They say he never fails to reach his quota in Oxnard. But if he should, he rides back 150 through Santa Paula, and he grabs their souls and ties them to his saddle and rides on to his grave. Anyway, that's the yarn they have. But this is the weird part. People say they've seen him, and they've heard the hoofbeats of the horse and seen the dark figure go by. I talked to a guy who works in downtown Ventura. He went to a party in Miners Oaks, and he drank a little bit too much. He wrongly thought that there were fewer policemen on Creek Road. So he tried to drive home. He had all the windows open, and he drank coffee, and he was driving slow. And he saw something in the tree behind him in the dark. No headlights, following him. What in the world is that? Well, he got to the Creek Road bridge where there were no trees. Mm-hmm. He looked behind him, and in the moonlight he saw what it was. A horse, a huge black horse, with a man all dressed in black and no head. Now, what would you do if you saw something like that following you?
Go faster.
That's what he did. He put his pedal to the metal, and he started to drive. He said it kept up with him. Now, horses do about 25. He said this horse was doing 60 miles an hour, a mile a minute. He said he was taking those turns on 2 wheels, and it chased him all the way to Highway 33. Now, he never drives on Creek Road. Even in the daylight, he just avoids it at all costs. Anyway, that's one of the many stories I list in the book, but it's just one of many. There's a strange story of Catwoman, not the lady from Batman. I wouldn't mind meeting her, but Catwoman was this crazy old lady who fed all the stray cats, and they thought she was nuts. Finally, she passed away, and they see her near her where her home once stood on Montgomery Street. But weirdly enough, her cats have followed her in death, and now they swarm around her and follow her down that street. People walking their dogs have seen this strange lady in a gray dress with all these cats around her, but the dogs won't attack. In fact, they cringe and back up out of fear and whimper with their tails between their legs. And these are satanic cats, I guess. They have eyes that glow like fire. Anyway, that's one of the many stories. Now, how much is true? I don't know. But as folklore, I think it's a great thing that these stories are preserved. And on Halloween and when the fall air hits around a campfire, stories like this seem really to be the right thing to have at that time. And I'm glad I was able to put them down on paper so they'll be saved for the future. And generations can shiver over Charman as they do now, as they have since 1950. So it's a fantastic study.
Well, I think, wasn't Ojai part of Atlantis at some point?
Well, that's one of the stories. I even cover it. In fact, they say this, that Atlantis had a Pacific colony called Mu. And they, of course, went to the mainland, which is now California, and there in the Ojai Valley, they built a temple to their many gods. And they had big crystals that could help them in their worship, which would enhance their mental abilities, make them more creative. Well, Atlantis sank in the sea, and so did Mu. And all the Atlanteans fled, and the temple, which was like Stonehenge, it fell over. But they say the crystals they buried still remain, and that causes anyone moving to Ojai to enhance their creative gifts. They become more psychic. They become more talented. They become more creative, more gifted. And of course, that's why all these people end up in Ojai, at least that's the theory anyway. But they say the center of the temple, the Holy of Holies, was that Clough Park, which remarkably has some large monolithic stones in it, I guess maybe hearkening back to those days. And people claim they've seen partially dressed temple maidens dancing through the place. I wish I could have that experience. And others have seen people they know are dead appear to them for a visit, to say hi or just to say hello, I don't know. But that's one of the stories that I cover, the strange Atlantean temple. Is there anything to it? I don't know. But are there a lot of creative people in Ojai? That's a fact. Do people seem to reach their highest creative point? Authors and lecturers and such in Ojai? That is a fact. So maybe there's something to it.
In Ventura, is there any place, well, I have visitors from out of town, is there any haunted bed and breakfasts I can?
Oh, there are several in Ventura. One of the Pierpont Inn has ghosts in it, especially in the break room. People have seen them in the kitchen and in the dining room of the Pierpont Inn. They've seen a figure of a woman dressed in the styles of 1910. They've also seen dancing figures there and the figure of a man as well. But for many years, since 1910, that was the place to eat. If you were somebody in Ventura, that's where you had dinner. Earl Stanley Gardner used to eat their special victory dinner whenever he won a case in the courthouse here in Ventura. So that's one place. Another place that's haunted is on California Street, the Bella Maggiore. But if you want to see the ghost, you should check into room 17. And the ghost there is a phantom called Rosa. No, sorry, it's not Rosa, it is Sylvia. Getting my ghosts mixed up here, there's so many of them. Sylvia is said in World War II was one of those ladies of the night who came to cash in on all the sailors and such in town. And it seemed that she hung herself in room 17. Or was she murdered? We did a seance there, and the medium contacted the ghost of Sylvia, and she said she wasn't murdered. Didn't kill herself, but she'd had a client who they got into a dispute over services rendered and costs to be paid, and he strangled her. And then he saw what he had done. And he cut down the curtain cords, wrapped them around her neck, and hoisted her up in the closet to make it look like a suicide. And then he snuck out the back door. The police, they didn't like any of the prostitutes' work. They were a problem for them. They saw it, oh, terrible lifestyle, just hung herself. But she was angry, and now she haunts a room waiting for that sailor to come back. So a word of advice. If you check into room 17, don't wear your pea coat. Don't sing Anchors Away, because she might take it as an insult. But those who have seen the ghost say she's really rather playful, likes to climb into bed with people, and pinch handsome men on the butt. And all kinds of ghost hunters have come here to room 17 and have had experiences right there. Of course, I spent the night there as well. I only had one kind of small thing happen, not really that dramatic. I'll tell you about it though. I was in bed and my wife was taking a shower. She likes to take a real hot shower. So I'm on the bed, laying there with my hands behind my head, and they have a big fan over the bed. Now, this was in the fall, so it was not working. I didn't need it to be on. It was cool. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, the fan started to turn by itself. I thought, boy, that's kind of odd. And I watched it as it went around 3 times, and then it stopped. And then it very slowly, as if someone was pushing it, went back the other way. And I later found out that the fan doesn't even go that direction. But that's the only thing I ever had happen to me. But others have had all sorts, seen apparitions, had the doors open and close, things move around, and hear voices, all kinds of stuff. But it is a legitimately haunted room, and if you have a desire to sleep with a ghost, and if you want to have a psychic experience, check into room 17. By the way, it's a pretty good room otherwise, besides having a ghost in it. But if you want to just stay there, they have 40 other rooms which are not haunted. So you can find one of the others that are very comfortable bed and breakfast. But there are many places where you can actually sleep with a ghost.
Well, Richard, thank you so much. You filled in, we've got your book here, Amazon.com, and we've got 22 other books just like it. And for bringing the history of Ventura and the ghosts so that I can have people from out of town, they've heard of the Bella Maggiore, and we've got to really have them find you. So Ventura, you have a remarkable history here, you have a remarkable historian, full of ghost stories. If you want a chance to get your bottom pinched, I guess room 17 sounds like the place to be. Good hot shower sounds good too. So Ventura, it's time for you to really think about coming here, visiting. We have another guest from Parkway Business Management to follow. So we're going to be right back. Ventura, welcome back. We have with us today Matthew from Parkway Business Solutions. He and his company have been working with the Faro Center for Innovation down in Camarillo, helping small businesses to get started. And we're going to see first just a little video about what it is that they've been doing to help out small businesses.
You're a small business owner, and the demands on your time can be overwhelming. You're a responsible person, but there just isn't enough time to do everything your business requires, and you're forced to choose. So you spend your week focused on sales and promise yourself to handle the office tasks on the weekend. Weekend after weekend passes, and your books begin to fall behind. Before you realize it, the end of the year passes, and you still haven't started. Frantically trying to make sense of the numbers, you start spending late nights sifting through countless transactions. Then you realize that even a single wrong number could send you right into the middle of an audit. If only there was a service that could reconstruct this information for you. There is.
So Matthew, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little about what we've just seen and how it can benefit small businesses?
Yeah, thank you very much. So Vendor Sync is an application we've developed after going through the Faro Center for Innovation's incubator. It's an application developed for bookkeepers and accountants to eliminate 50% of the data entry that they have to do on a daily basis for small business owners. So we're trying to change the face of accounting by bringing the power of cloud accounting back to QuickBooks Desktop.
So having accountants, and they always are staring at me wondering, how did I put that budget together and what did I promise? So,
You got it.
so how does it interfaces with the business owner as well then?
Yeah, so the business owner has the ability, they could download their transactions for like the whole year from the bank, and it will help them go through the process of putting a payee name and a category in the fastest way possible. Basically, you can batch out the transactions, so when you pull them in, it will do the rest of the categorization for you and eliminate a lot of the time.
And then are there any analytics built in as well?
We are building out more analytics to be able to do some budgeting aspects in the future, but at this time, it's focused primarily on the data entry to make it so it's easier to get the stuff in without all of the questions and the challenges.
So about human analytics, I guess.
Exactly,
Humans
exactly
get involved
right.
and finally have information that they can have something they can deal with. That's a wonderful thing.
Yes, we're very grateful that we were able to go through the accelerator with Aspire and the Faro Center for Innovation. It's also helped us with our accounting practice to understand what startups are going through and to be able to provide a better service offering to them.
Well, Ventura, it's time for you to get moving. Small businesses, you really do need to have an accounting software that works, and anybody who's doing data entry is going to bless you and buy you pizza and beer. We've heard about the Charman. I get nervous walking out in Ojai on the wrong day of the year in the full moon. So, Ventura, it's time for you to get moving.